Joining me now, Matt Schlapp. He's chairman of the American Conservative Union. Matt, good to have you with us today.
Great to be with you this morning.
Jason, obviously, we're just getting some comments there from Conor Lamb, as we heard. This is a district that has so much attention, also because Republicans have dominated this district for 15 years. So at this point, how concerning is it that the race on Election Day is so close?
Well, it's definitely concerning. Every seat in the House of Representatives is going to matter because, there's a great concern that Democrats might be able to pick up some seats heading into November and on the Election Day in November. But I think specifically in this race, the issue is that the incumbent Republican who had to resign in disgrace in a scandal has really upset the voters in this district. And unfortunately, Mr. Saccone has to, run under that banner and try to put that behind him. But he's doing the best he can. I think the good news is for him is that on the Republican side, the Trump political operation, the RNC, they are spending a lot of money. They are working together. And at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Mr. Saccone if he can pull this over the finish line.
So you're saying he was just he was given a bad hand by what he inherited?
There's no question. I'm sure you know about the scandal of the incumbent. Mm-hmm. It's one of the worst things I've heard in politics. And I don't blame the voters for being angry about it.
There's also, though, looking at the Democratic side, Chris was speaking with Ed Rendell, former governor, earlier this morning. There is a real lesson here for Democrats, which can't be ignored by either side, in that they are seeing a much more moderate candidate put himself forward, who in many ways aligns more with some Republican voters there. Is that a concern for you, that we are starting to see a shift and see, perhaps it's great for the voters, candidates who may actually speak to their values a little bit more as opposed to on a national party level? But how much of that is a concern and is a focus?
Well, I'm worried that the Democrats will get smart. And, when they got the majority in the House and the Senate back in 2006, it was on the back of finding Democratic candidates that you couldn't call radical. This nation is not a radical nation. We're a very centrist nation. And when the Democrats portray themselves as being more moderate, they do much better. So I think this Democratic candidate, Mr. Lamb, has been smart to disassociate himself from Nancy Pelosi, to disassociate himself from some of the progressive, more radical voices in his party. Now, will he get away with it? Because if he were to win today, he's going to vote with Nancy Pelosi on all the major issues, most likely. It'll be his decision to make. And if he doesn't vote with her, he'll be completely ostracized from the party. So the voters in Pennsylvania have to decide if they can take him at his word that he'll actually be a moderate voice in Congress.
We will be watching to see what happens as that plays out today. I do want to get your take on everything that is all the drama surrounding the House Intel Committee. We just heard from Eric Swalwell there talking about he first learned that they were wrapping things up on Twitter. And we have seen the intelligence community come back and say, wait a minute, we stand by our findings here. We stand by everything that we saw. Even this is Chris Stewart says they got it wrong. Is the House Intel jumping the gun a little bit here, or was it time to wrap things up because it's become such a partisan distraction?
Well, how many years do we want to spend on this? We spent a year. We spent a lot of money. We have 3 major investigations going on, and I've seen no evidence of collusion. I've seen evidence of, maybe mistakes in judgment, but I've seen no collusion. Even the special counsel has only gotten indictments on people for activities before they joined the Trump campaign. So I don't really understand why we need to spend. What are we going to spend the whole Trump presidency investigating the Trump presidency? I do think I think Condi Rice is right. There comes a point in all this where you put your cards on the table, you tell the American people the information you have, and then the American voter has to make their determination, and that's what should be done now.
So, which is what's happening with the special counsel. We should point out we don't know about collusion. We have not gotten those findings.
Have you seen any evidence? Have you seen any evidence of collusion?
I haven't seen any evidence either way because I haven't seen the final report. So we can't speak to that because we don't know what they found. So let's stick to the facts.
But a Democrat can't be upset that an investigation in the House closes when we have seen no evidence of collusion. And if you've seen some evidence, please explain it to me.
Well, first of all, you're asking me, a journalist. I am not a Democrat on the committee. So let's be clear on that, first of all. But number two, would a Democrat have a right to be upset about the fact that they're learning about this wrapping up on Twitter and that the findings are put out there before they're given to the Democrats?
Look,
what does that say to the American people?
I think it's very unfortunate on basic questions of national security and even the intelligence community that we've gotten so polarized. Think about this. How fair is it that the Obama administration used the Intelligence Committee to spy on the Trump campaign? I think that's a ridiculous an unconstitutional and irresponsible step. We have got to figure out a way, Republicans and Democrats, on these basic questions of national security to show the world that we can work together. And I think it's terrible that we're not.
Well, we also need to stick to facts on all of those things. So let's start by doing that. Here's the other thing I want to ask you about.
I didn't say anything.
When it comes to Russia, I want to get your take on Russia here, because we heard very strong words from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson yesterday. We did not hear that from Sarah Sanders. In fact, Rex Tillerson going on to say, after he was saying that it's almost beyond comprehension, calling an egregious act everything that happened in the UK, and Theresa May saying that Russia was behind it, Sarah Sanders says, we don't know that. Rex Tillerson also said, look, we have spent the better part of a year really trying to work together with Russia. And what I've seen instead, after all of those efforts, I'm paraphrasing here, but he used the word pivot. He said they've pivoted to being even more aggressive. Why aren't we hearing more concern from the White House on this?
I think you will. I think, look, when these types of things happen, there is a period of time by which you have to learn what the facts are and figure out the right stance. And it's not uncommon in administration to have one member of the administration really go out there and be aggressive. And I think it's the job of the Secretary of State to make that clear. And I think that there's no question, everybody understands the Russian menace. Everybody understands the Putin menace. What Donald Trump is trying to do with Putin is do everything he can to try to be able to have a good relationship with him. Democrat presidents in the past have said they want to have a good relationship with the Russians. It was usually the Republicans who were accused of being warmongers. In this case, you have a Republican president who's trying to be measured, both with China and with Russia, and those two interrelate. I don't think it's a bad thing for our president to try to not go to a war of words on every instance.
There's not going to a war of words, and then there's actually going off of the facts that have been given to us by our most important ally, as we heard from Sarah Sanders, who said we don't have the details. That most important ally said, yes, we do, it's Russia.
Well, look, this is what countries do. This is what allies do. They share information. Everybody understands the Russian menace. I think Vladimir Putin has done terrible things, including trying to intervene in our election. And I think there's no question that look at Obama himself. Obama didn't keep us safe in the last election. We have got to be much tougher when it comes to Russia, but it doesn't mean the President of the United States needs to be constantly in a